Welcome to Project Risk Management Technique Expert Interviews, presented by Marlene Nunez for St. Mary's University of Minnesota, PRM 614. The learning outline that I'm going to use in this presentation is going to go in this order. We're going to start with defining what expert interviews and judgment is. We're going to talk about its usage and approaches, and then we're going to look at some examples and studies. Nearly all risk analysis techniques require some expert judgment. However, it can sometimes be difficult to distinguish between good and bad judgment. Take a look at the definition for expert judgment. Expert judgment is judgment provided based upon expertise in an application area, or a knowledge area, or a discipline or industry. And it's used for any activity that's being performed. Such expertise may be provided by any group or person with specialized education, knowledge, skill, experience, or training. So now we're going to look at why we would use expert judgment. Expert judgment may seem easier than perhaps a quantitative method, but you're actually inviting someone that may have specialized knowledge into your inner circle to help you look at things in different ways. This is really important and useful. Experts should be able to identify the weaknesses of the tools as well as their strengths. Let's look at where expert judgment can be used in the project timeline. It is recommended to be used on all projects. It's most useful in risk identification, but it can also be used in other project areas. Take a look at the major steps used in utilizing expert judgment. The first one is to identify a suitable individual. The second is to prepare for the interview. The third is to make sure that we're targeting the interest area. The fourth is to make sure that we're soliciting judgments as general information. And the fifth is to qualify and quantify the information. So let's take a look at who can provide expert judgment. Almost anyone who has a knowledge base can provide expert judgment. The key is if the PM utilizes the knowledge that he is obtaining and utilizes his time correctly. The danger of not utilizing expert judgment correctly is if the PM and team does not understand the information and goes over their allotted time for the project, which can then go over cost in the project. Therefore, understanding and making the information usable for the project is critical. Now we're going to take a look at an example and how it's used with inputs and outputs. On the left-hand side is a probability and impact matrix. As you can see on the left-hand side, we're looking at the probability, and across the bottom, we're looking at the impact. Now, the probability and impact matrix is made up of both threats and opportunities because that's what risk truly is, threats versus opportunities. Two prerequisites for using expert judgment is that the interviewer must prepare by doing research. The interviewee must be willing to spend time necessary to disclose all info. Results from utilizing expert judgment can be qualitative or quantitative or both. Now, according to our PMBOK version 2013, expert judgment is used with the probability and impact matrix to assess the risks. The matrix can be set up with values by the organization before the project even begins. Expert judgment can affect many different documents and how the risks are handled. Now we're going to take a look at some pros and cons with utilizing expert judgment. On the pros side, It's easy to obtain people who are experts in any field. You're going to get a higher level of expert information, and the insight is going to be very strong for your project. Now, the best thing is that it can be used at any stage of the project, even if it's not being used during the risk management portion. Some of the cons that I identified was that information that is provided could be hard to understand if not provided at a lower level of understanding from the expert. The expert may take a long time if the manager is not working hand in hand with the expert. And if the manager does not analyze the data in a way that makes it worthwhile to the project, that could be considered a con as well. Now we're going to look at some of the alternatives to utilizing expert judgment. So if you decide to not use the time and money that it could cost to use an expert judge, you have to look at other ways that you could collect data or make very high level approaches to risk management in your project. Some of the ideas that I came up with were data collection, diagramming, utilizing quantitative methods, and also possibly using the Crawford slip method. All of these were really good approaches that will probably get you the type of information that you may get from an expert judge. That I found while doing research on expert judgment. I've been trying to use and incorporate a lot of green building into the project that we've been doing for the No More Starving Families swim lane cruises. And one of my things that I was doing was using green building in the building of the interior of the ship. So this study that I found was called Facilitating Effective Green Procurement in Construction Projects, an empirical study of the enablers. The study focused on green building and green procurement, and it used two tools in its research: surveys and expert interviews. So when I saw this research, I thought it was very interesting, and I thought it was very comparative to what I've been learning about using expert judgment. The quote that I read that really caught my interest was the following: the traditional golden triangle of cost, time, and quality, rather than environmental aspects, is considered the benchmark of project performance, a view that hinders the development of green procurement. So this last portion that I'm putting up here from the study is an example of a paragraph that I pulled from the study where they talked about where they used expert judgment. In this case, they refer to it as expert interviews. Both of the terms are interchangeably used in project risk management. And so looking at here, the main points that I'm going to pull out of this paragraph is talking about the criteria that they used when selecting eligible participants. So the first one is that they wanted to have somebody who had a substantial working experience in planning, designing, or managing green roof projects. They also needed to have direct involvement in any green procurement work in any existing or recent construction project. And three, have good knowledge and understanding of green procurement. They got a total of 7 practitioners who had good experience in green procurement planning and executions, including, and this is the interesting part, the different types of people that they pulled as expert judges. They had 2 senior engineers that were working for a contracting company and a consultancy, 2 project managers, an owner of contracting companies, and 2 architects who were finally identified and invited to participate in the study. In the structured interviews, the interviewees were asked: 1, discuss and comment on the important factors identified in the survey, and 2, give recommendations for advancing procurement in the construction field. So I thought this was really fascinating. It pulled together everything that I've been talking about throughout the whole presentation. The kind of people that they're looking for in experience, the number of people that they had, who they were, what fields they came from, and then really two simple questions. Look at our surveys and discuss and comment on those factors, and then give us recommendations. And that's truly the crux of what expert judgment is used for in project risk management. I'd like to leave everybody off with a thank you. Thank you for watching my presentation. I would prefer any comments and any feedback on my presentation. If you have any questions, make sure you ask an expert.